Welcome back to the BHAW Army Wrestling Radio Podcast. I'm your host tonight, Brian Rowan, and Jordan Tom is not with us.
And by not with us, of course, you mean he is doing perfectly fine.
He'll make 100% recovery. No, he's
already at 100%. He's perfectly fine. He's not even
good.
Less than 100%. He's not 98. He's not 99. He's 100%. But He's not on the show tonight. So B-Row, you have a guest host tonight.
Yeah. So we got Coach Kevin Ward filling in. He's going to be helping out tonight. And we got a special episode. Willie Simpson coming on the air. William Simpson, better known as Willie Simpson or Slick Willie. And we also
otherwise they would get me confused with your cat. So
yes. And
and no one wants that.
No.
And we also have Matthew Simpson on, avid listener of the podcast. So welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, it's awesome being here. My first show, and I've only been counting, since the first episode. So what episode is this, B-Row? Is it 37?
This is episode 39.
Oh, 39. So I'm only like your 39th, best friend. So I understand.
This must be something. This must be a Simpson kind of thing, because as soon as we started the episode with Phil, he brought that up. He was like, yeah, I was wondering when you guys were going to start contacting me. I thought I was like pretty high up on the like Army wins, list, a couple other accolades. We're just saving it. We don't want to put, this is a long-term podcast. We're going to be doing this literally forever.
We
had to bring all the guns out right away.
Yeah, well, we had to wait because we know how big of a fan of the show Matthew is. And we thought we have to keep Matthew tuning in to the show. He may not watch this one because he knows what we're talking about. Of all of our dozens of listeners, Matthew was listening to each show like 10 times. He is almost our entire fan base, the Army Wrestling super fan. So Willie, maybe you're overdue to be on the show. What I'm most excited about having Matthew on the show tonight, see if he can carry his old man through an interview here.
That's true. I'm going to lean on him for sure. He knows more about it than I do. So
yeah, we had to go. We should have went live 5 minutes ago when he was giving me a recap of all the Greco finals this past weekend.
Well, we'll have to run it back. We'll have to get Willie's thoughts, Matthew's thoughts on the Olympic trials this past week. I'm sure B-Row has some strong hot take, not very popular opinions. He'll probably want to share too.
You got mine yesterday on the phone. I won't bring that up tonight. That's not a topic to bring
That's
up.
not a topic. No, it's not. It's a topic we can discuss, but it's not an opinion that you want to discuss at all. No, save that.
Awesome. So let's start with a few questions for Matthew, because I know his bedtime's coming up. So Matthew, you've listened to a lot of different episodes. What was your favorite episode on this podcast so far?
I really liked the EIWA preview one. That one
really
was really fun to watch, because that one was right before Dad was packing up and about to leave for the IWA, so he had put that on his bed. He was packing up, and I got to listen to that.
He got to stay up late that night, hanging out with Dad. So
nice. Matthew, was that the episode that B-Row wasn't on? Did somebody take his spot, or was B-Row on that episode with us?
He was.
Oh, he was, and it's still one of your favorites. I'm a little bit surprised, but
who's your favorite co-host?
There's a few.
Yeah, I'd probably say One-Eyed Willie is my favorite co-host.
Yeah, I would have to go with One-Eyed Willie too.
That's probably my number one.
Well, what's your other favorite episode? You gotta have another one.
I do like the NCAA one.
Yeah. You think, what about the episode with your Uncle Phil?
Yeah, I listened to almost the whole thing of that.
Almost the entire thing?
Almost the entire thing. That one.
Yeah. Sometimes Uncle Phil rambles a little bit.
The Simpsons move at their own pace. I'm sure the episodes flow at a very Simpson pace.
Well, he's heard all the stories already, so. wasn't a new episode for him.
Yeah.
One, why I got to listen to almost all of them. I like to sneak the iPad and
Don't tell mom.
try to get the password. I haven't figured out. Last phone that mom had, I would sneak. I would take it. I figured out the password, so I get the password. I always go to baseball and sometimes go to YouTube and try to watch wrestling, but then mom would catch me.
Moms can do that.
Somewhere hiding. I'd be somewhere hiding, trying to put it on.
Does mom let you watch the BHAW radio though?
She let me watch the Simpson one. And this night, when Margaret heard that I was going to be on the BHAW radio, she was really impressed. And then she thought that I'd have to wait till 1 hour. She thought I was going to be on here for a while.
Yeah.
She was doing the laundry, I think. She was getting something from downstairs. It was late. I was watching the
What do you think they
NCAA.
Well, Margaret will probably listen to this. You want to say anything to her?
Well,
Say what's up?
she probably will.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I will try to get her on.
Well, no, you can say what's up to her now because she'll hear it tomorrow when BRO releases.
Like this. Hey, Margaret, what's up? We're glad you're listening.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell her that I took the toughest questions. Well, Margaret, I did take one of the toughest questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
BRO trying to be sneaky Pete on you.
Yeah, he's coming out hot.
Yeah, so the listeners know too, we didn't prepare anybody with any of these questions today. This is like, we're just firing these off. So,
And I'm sure our listeners are shocked because it's usually obvious that we prepare so hard in advance of every single one of these episodes.
Yeah.
So Matthew, last question before you go to bed. Who is your favorite Army wrestler?
I like
can only
Ben
pick one.
Pazoo because he came this year as a freshman. I kind of thought he might have would have got maybe third place, but after I saw him wrestle really good, I thought he was gonna be one of the best wrestlers on Army's lineup.
Can I ask you a question about that? What do you think that Ben does so well in his wrestling?
Scoring points. I mean,
I like that.
when I watched him, his first match was against that Lehigh kid. He beat that kid like 14-4. I don't know, that he came out of nowhere because we thought they put on at the whole match. We did not know who he was. Sage was with us and we were just thinking who it was. We didn't know. So at the end of the match, they showed Ben Pazoo because at the end of the match, Sage was like, we figured out that it was Ben Pazoo.
Yeah. What was his technique? How did he score points?
Getting takedowns.
Yeah. Did you recognize any of those takedowns?
I did.
Yeah. Which one?
When he started scoring points, to me, he looked like kind of what Lane does.
Yeah.
He tries to.
He looked like a bazooka out there.
Yeah.
Pazoo just was scoring points.
That's awesome.
And that's what you got to do, right?
In the second period was the most points that he took. The third period was just like 5 points, but he beat that kid by a major decision.
Yeah.
That was like he came out of nowhere, and then finally we figure out that he's Ben Pazook, and then his next match I think was against Binghamton.
No, it was Navy.
Mm-hmm.
and he beat the Navy kid.
Yeah, he beat him pretty good.
Beat him up.
Yeah. And then what happened at EIWA's?
EIWA's, he just beat those kids. It was his first year, so I don't think I've ever watched a freshman be an EIWA champion his first year.
Yeah.
I have never.
Not even Uncle Philip did that. Uncle Philip got second his freshman year.
How many years have you been watching Army wrestling, Matthew?
Maybe 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all that I can
We've
remember
been here for 5 years. So yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
I have never seen
watched for 4
freshmen go
years.
with it either.
I've been watching Army wrestling for 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years ago, they had
I don't even remember 4 years ago, man. But
Not
it's
nearly
hard
as
to
many
think,
good
but
guys.
They did.
Yeah.
They did get people to the NCAAs.
yeah.
And I forgot that you had to be in the top 4 this year to go to the NCAAs when Taylor Brown, he was in the consolations. He lost his 3rd place match. So I thought he was not going. And then when I figured out he's going, I was like, oh, yeah, you have to be 4th in the top 4. And he went there. He wasn't so good, but he went in there, won his first match, and then lost his second.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough tournament, man.
So I thought that might have been the second best tournament last year. Not last year, but the other year. They had a pretty good one.
Who else are you excited to see maybe next year?
Next year, I hope that those wrestlers can work the whole season. They're working their best.
They need to.
This year,
Coach, you gonna get on that?
Yeah, I'm taking notes here. I'm listening.
usually this year, I kind of think they worked almost their very hardest. I think PJ and Lane worked as hard as they could.
Mm-hmm.
But
Listen, I'm going to tell the
Zupas
wrestlers that unless you want Matthew to get on BHAW radio next year and say he went to the tournament and he wasn't very good, they need to work their best, because you know what? I agree with you. We weren't very good, and we need to work our best. I agree.
Yeah.
last year we had, I think we had a few wrestlers winning 2 matches in the championship bracket. But
that was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago. And
then, last year we didn't get to have an NCAA tournament.
Yeah, but we did get qualifiers.
Yeah, we did. We
got a stickler over here, Willie.
Yeah.
Really.
So
yeah, Willie, we know there wasn't a NCAA tournament, so we can just.
We were in the semifinals, and then I think it was Ben Harvey. Yeah, Ben Harvey lost to Valencia in his match. Last year, Valencia beat him.
Yeah.
That was tough.
Because I thought Valencia would have maybe had to go to OT, but Ben Harvey would have won.
Yeah, he's good in OT.
Because in OT, that's when Ben Harvey gets amped up and working hard.
Yeah.
I remember last year when he was wrestling. In his senior year, he was wrestling in OT against his Navy kid, and he beat him.
That's always good.
Yeah. Well, what do you say to Mr. B-Row, Mr. Kevin?
Thank you.
Yeah. What do you want to say? Go Army.
Go Army, beat Navy.
Yeah. Go Army. Yeah, beat everybody. Thanks for coming on the show tonight, man.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew.
You're welcome.
All right. Good night.
All right, well, that wraps it up for tonight.
Yeah.
we got 2 Willies in this show.
Everyone can they can just kind of tune out now. I mean, the star of the show was gone. I don't know how we're going to follow that. He has a better memory of Army wrestling than I do. And you know what? I don't think he's ever seen a freshman go to the NCAA tournament before and win it. Matter of fact, no one on planet Earth had ever seen that before because that was our first one. But he's absolutely right. He had never seen that before. And hard-hitting analysis too. Yeah, he went to the tournament. He wasn't very good.
Yeah, he didn't hold back.
He's not holding back. Reminds me a little bit of me on the podcast.
Guy.
Sometimes I need to hold it back, but
I take a lot of my motivational stuff that I take back to the rest of it. I just get from Matthew. I get prepped up before I go to practice.
Today, Matthew?
So for the listeners listening, Will Simpson, my classmate, class of 2009, two-time NCAA qualifier, WCAP team member, universities finalist, been on the wrestling scene for the last 15 years and with college and international, longest serving field captain into field grade years on West Point in history, I think. Willie's been at West Point for the past 5 years. Is it 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah, 5. Yeah.
Welcome again to the show. I'm excited to do this. This is long overdue. We we wanted to have you on earlier, but just logistics. It's just
yeah, those logistics tough.
Yeah, and maybe I took every episode, so I'll take the blame for that. But let's dig in. Let's dig in, bro.
Yeah, so I'll start it the same way we started Phil's, because I want to get your perspective. You come from huge family. Everybody knows the Simpsons that's listening. All the dozens of fans we have listening in, they know the Simpson family. Phil talked, a lot about his perspective. Let's hear your perspective growing up a big family, what that means to you and kind of what that means, from a family perspective, but also from a wrestling perspective.
Yeah. So growing up, I mean, there was a lot of kids in the house and so there was always somebody to get in trouble with. I guess my earliest memory is probably seeing my dad coach in practice, where mom would drop us off or come to to maybe pick dad up, and we would run into the wrestling room and watch him coach practice, finish up practice. So I remember my dad coaching, and the wrestlers had this profound respect for my dad. And then we'd go to tournaments and we'd be wrestling on the side of the mats, or when there was a break in the rounds, we'd go out there and Philip and Patrick and I would just literally just roll around the mat. So that's kind of how we grew up. It was just a part of our daily life in the house. But having so many kids, there was always somebody to wrestle, and everything ended in a wrestling match. We could be playing cards, playing like Go Fish or whatever, and then before you know it, somebody telling somebody cheated, and then you start banging heads and grabbing legs and pushing each other around. So it didn't matter what we did, basketball, soccer, whatever. It always ended in a wrestling match. So it was kind of in our blood to be wrestling, to wrestle.
Has that transcended into your current household?
Yes.
You have 7 kids, right? Is it 7 or 8?
7 and one on the way.
7 and 7.5, 7 3.
Yeah.
So who's winning those wrestling matches at the Simpson household now?
Well, Margaret's pretty daggum tough.
I was gonna say, I don't think anybody's beat Margaret.
She's just gritty. Matthew knows most of the wrestling, but Margaret's just straight up gritty. But it's kind of fun because Matthew and Margaret are pretty even. It's that they trade takedowns constantly. It's really just a toss up. That's what makes it fun, because one night Margaret may, put it on Matthew, and the next night Matthew's freaking putting her in a headlock and throwing her down on the ground. And then Christine gets in there and scraps too. She's fun to watch, and but you do got to watch out for Mary Kate. She's only 4 years old, but she'll come up behind you when you're not looking and do a chin whip back to your back. So
I feel like Mary Kate's too sweet to be a wrestler. She's just a sweetheart.
No, I can see that. I've seen them playing. I've seen them in my backyard. I've seen them on the street. I could see that in Mary Kate. I could see her.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going through high school. Phil goes to West Point. Patrick goes to West Point. Was there any question whether you were going to go to West Point too, or was that a foregone conclusion?
No, it was. I didn't even apply anywhere else. When Philip, applied and got in, at that point I knew where I was going to go. My brother Patrick, had his doubts. He kind of was, wanted to be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, like the competitive drive between all of us brothers was so strong that like we couldn't allow Philip to outdo us, and so Patrick at the end of the day was like, all right, Philip's not better than better than me, so I'm going to go to West Point and show him up. And then me, it's just like, well, if that's what my old brothers are doing, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to prove I'm the best brother. So that's kind of just the competitive drive that drove us into West Point. But we also, seeing Philip in his cadet outfit, we had a sense of pride in being at the military academy, and my two grandfathers serving in the Army. We had that like instinctive, desire to serve our country. And then West Point just offered us, to wrestle at Division I level and be, an officer in the Army. So it was kind of like a win-win for all of us.
Nice. So when was the first time you went to West Point? I'm actually asking some of these questions now that I don't even know. And I feel like I know you extremely well, Willie, but
yeah,
when was the first time you went to West Point? Like,
I think I must have been a sophomore in high school, maybe a junior. Cause I think I went up with Patrick, to visit Philip, sometime after wrestling season was over. And, he might've been Patrick's like recruiting trip or something like that, but we all came up and to visit Philip, and he showed us around, and he acted like he owned the place, but I think he was just a plebe and we didn't know any better. So, yeah, it was, that, I mean, I remember coming up and just kind of falling in love with West Point, and, in the springtime when it gets, the leaves come out and the flowers start blooming. It's a beautiful place. I think strategically, Philip didn't ask us to come up in the winter, where it's a little more dreary.
He was already recruiting.
Yeah, that winter would have scared me off. So
I did my recruiting trip in February. I didn't come up in the fall. So yeah, I was.
Man, yeah.
Were you already committed at that point, or were you still open?
I hadn't finished my application process, so I wasn't like, I couldn't like commit, but I was already like on board to go to the prep school. So they're like, hey, you need to get your physical, like the little physical aptitude test. Like you need to get that done. And because it was like wrestling season, I just like didn't feel like I'd be like cutting weight. So I didn't want to, I was like, I'm not going to perform that well. And they're like, just go do it. So I did it like right after that. And then I was kind of onboarded from there.
Got it.
Good radio.
But so when you came up on your official recruiting visit, Will, did you stay with your brother?
Unofficially, yes. I didn't realize that, when I was staying with Phil, because I wasn't really on an official trip. I never actually had an official trip. I used to kind of say that to Chuck Barbie, who was our coach. He actually never really recruited me. He just assumed I was coming and, didn't have to waste any energy on me. But no, I came up to see Phil, and I slept in the same bed as he did. And I thought it was a great time. Which that's just the way we grew up, like we kind of slept in the same bedrooms and same bed. It wasn't a big deal, So when we came up to West Point, it was kind of like being at home, growing up with Phil in the room.
Little did you know, Coach was using all that energy recruiting BHAW.
I'm pretty sure that I approached Coach Barbie about getting recruited. I was like, hey, I want to come to West Point. He was like, okay. And then I think I got a letter in the mail. It was like right around that time I got a letter in the mail because I made it to the state tournament or something. But
I mean, are we going to go this whole interview tonight and not pretend you have a cat sitting in the back of your chair? I can't.
He's just chilling.
Yeah. He just sits right there on the back of your chair the whole time?
I guess. I mean, this is the first episode I've done up here.
Yes, well, you're in his domain now, so you better ask permission.
For all the listeners listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're missing out. You need to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and you can watch.
If you can't see it, there's literally a cat sitting on the back of B-Row's chair, and he's carrying on a conversation like it's completely normal. And this cat's just chilling. By the way, the cat only has one eyeball.
Yeah.
And you can't make this stuff up. So I hope our 24, maybe 25 now, YouTube viewers getting a kick out of this like I am.
So back to the agenda. Willie, you had a kind of a unique career at West Point. You qualified for the national tournament as a plebe, and then you qualified again as a firstie. I personally know, you went through some adversity and in between, plebe year and first year. Talk to us a little bit about your career, what it was like to wrestle at West Point, kind of some of the adversity you went through, while you were there.
Well, when I was a plebe, nobody had any expectations. I mean, I wasn't a highly recruited athlete coming out of Tennessee. And so I don't think there was a lot of expectations on me at the time. We had some of my good buddies that were on my team. Nando for Martinez was a guy at 125, and Travis Featherstone, and so I think they just kind of thought I was just going to be a good practice partner. So that just was a great thing for me because it just burned me. I wanted to prove everybody wrong. So my freshman year, that my mentality was just prove everybody wrong. But it also helped having Patrick. Patrick was a firstie. He was the captain of the team. And I mean, Phil had a lot of accolades on the mat. I mean, he had the most wins and records and stuff, but and this will start a fight next time we get to home. But Patrick was tougher than Phil.
I know.
Patrick was the hardest
practice partner that year.
Yeah, I know you were. You know better than I, but he was the hardest working kid. I'm still to this day, I've never seen anybody work as hard as Patrick and be more intense. But he also had Mr. Intensity, 4-time winner, John Anderson. So it was like they fed off each other. And for me, I was just trying hard to be, kind of fall in line with my brother Patrick. So I was like a really immature. My body hasn't even matured yet, trying to compete with Patrick and John Anderson. But I think that drive and that daily effort is what fueled my success freshman year. Of course, I fell into a little funk because I made it to the NCAAs my freshman year, kind of set the bar. And then now I had to deal with the new expectations. And that was a difficult thing for me to grasp mentally was, all right, if I expect me to go back to NCAAs, I got to repeat the type of performance I had. And I didn't have Patrick there. I didn't have Johnny Smokes there to kind of keep me, going. So that was tough. And also Matt Kyler came in, as a freshman, and he was highly recruited, one of our best athletes at West Point in our wrestling history. And
I wouldn't say athlete, but one of the wrestlers.
You're right. Yeah. But was decorated, I guess. Our last All American. So, but yeah, Matt Kyler coming in there and kind of shook things up and kind of messed with my confidence a little bit. And I still found the starting lineup by the end of the year. I had some success. I won the New York State tournament that year and pulled a big upset over, at the time, he was number 10 seed, Mark Budd. I know, B-Row, you remember that match.
Yeah, you couldn't get your headgear off. He was trying to celebrate coming off the mat, and he couldn't get his head. I still have the video. Oh, man.
Who was it that you beat there?
It was Mark Budd from Buffalo. Yeah,
it was so funny. He you got to take down, I think, in overtime, right near the edge of the mat.
It was this craziest thing. Chuck Barbie, I love the guy, but and I look back, I'm like, what was Chuck thinking? Why did he let me make this decision? I was out there on top, and if I finished writing Mark Budd out, we would have been a tie, and we would have gone into overtime. I had some crazy reason was like, I'm letting this dude up. I actually lost to Mark Budd earlier that year in overtime. So in my head, I was like, I'm going to let him up and I'm going to take him down. But there was 20 seconds left on the clock. And so, we went out of bounds and I went like Chuck Barbie was like, you want me to let him up? I'm gonna let him up. And Chuck was like, you want to let him up? And I was like, yeah, I'm letting him up. He's like, okay, and so I let Mark butt up, and we went out of bounds, and I had like 17 seconds, or like 8 seconds left on the clock to take him down, and I like dove in on a shot, tried to peek out, and came up, dumped him on his back, and in the process of doing that, he pulled my headgear down. I couldn't even see, and I was on top of him. I couldn't see how much time was left on the clock, and referee goes 2, and I was trying to get my headgear off, and I was trying.
We got to find that footage.
I have it. I think it made it made the highlight tape of like the end of the year video, and I took a video of the entire thing a few years back because I was like, I'm not going to want to miss all this stuff because there's several funny clips. Like Clayton put together the highlight tape that year, and
that's goofy.
I'm gonna have to find that one.
Yeah. Anyways, I looked about as athletic as Matt Kyler did, trying to celebrate with my headgear still over my eyes. But I was at that weight class that year. They sent all 6 guys from the EIWA there. So, I mean, it was a tough weight class. I just didn't perform well. And then following that up my junior year, I had to bump up a couple weight classes. Matt Kyler, was having a lot of success. And Casey Tom had come in the lineup. I love Casey Tom. I know Jordan's not on, but we used to scrap and try to break each other. And kind of came down to it. Chuck Barbie made the call and went with Casey Tom instead of me. So my junior year, I just sat in the bleachers watching the IWAs, and it burned me up. Burned me up to watch the IWAs from the stands. And then senior year, kind of went back and forth with Casey Tom again. Again, we were out for blood every day. But the crazy thing about Casey Tom was we both were in FCA together, the wrestling team, and we would wake up in the mornings, once or twice a week, and go to the FCA together, and we would do some Bible reading and pray together. We would talk about intentions, like what is our intention, or what we want to pray for. And I was like, I want to pray that I beat Casey Tom's ass. Sorry, Matthew. Anyways, but it's crazy but I love Casey Tom, that it was just a, tough room. We were busting each other up pretty good every day. And, he ended up getting hurt, busted his knee up. And so I got the call, and I was able to go into EIWAs and place 4th and qualified to go to NCAAs one more time. Didn't do what I set out to do, didn't accomplish my goals of being All-American. So it left me still wanting. After graduating, I felt like I had unfinished business and on the mat. So when I had an opportunity, after I graduated, I went to the Big Red One out of Fort Riley, Kansas, and deployed with them to Iraq for a year. Spent a year as an XO back in Garrison, and then before going to Captain's Career Course, there was, my brother Phil called me up and said, "Hey, have you thought about doing All Army, coming out to WCAP room?" And so I took him up on it, put the paperwork in, and went out there and started scrapping again. So it was a awesome opportunity to put the shoes back on and go seek some more wins. So that was kind of how I got into WCAP. But while I was there, I transitioned from freestyle to Greco and made a living, training Greco. And it took me a while to learn Greco, but once I learned it, I fell in love with it.
Hey, can I go back? Cause I'm just like, I'm stuck on this. You and Casey waking up, going to FCA breakfast and doing your devotionals and praying together. Would you pray right in front of me? Please tell me you said, "Yeah, today I want to pray that I beat this guy's ass." Tell me you would say that out loud right in front of me.
I may have not have said it as vocal, but he's sitting in the same circle as me. So I was like, praying that I, be the starter and go to EIWAs.
I love it.
It was, yeah. I was just that honest, you know. 'Cause you're that honest when you walk in the restroom and you look at each other and you're like, yeah, I'm gunning for you. I mean, you can't help but not be honest. And I feel like that's kind of what BHAW is, you know. That our BRO. I mean, it wasn't BHAW, right? Like BHAW kind of came after us, but it was BHAW in every sense of the, you know, the motto. We cared about each other. We, you know, held each other accountable, and you know, if I wasn't going to be the guy, I was going to make sure that the guy that was there was going to do it for me, you know, because I just wasn't going to accept, you know, anything less of myself. So I wasn't going to accept anything less of the person who was there in front of me. So
it's awesome.
On that note, Willie, I wish you kept me a little bit more accountable when I was at West Point. Maybe I would have.
We're trying. Listen, we're trying now, BRO.
Yeah.
We haven't given up on you.
Some things you just can't do, you know.
We're not giving up on you.
I have a couple of questions. So your transition, you know, you go in the Army, let's say 6 to 9 months, and you deploy for a year, you come back. So it's like 2 years off the mat. You know, what's it like coming back? You know, what's the transition like? And then obviously going in, you know, starting freestyle and then being like, okay, I got to wrestle this different sport that's not even wrestling, Greco-Roman.
Hey man,
you knew you'd get a hot take from me tonight at some point.
Yeah, well, it'll come back to you, I'm sure. Well, what was it like going from, you know, I think it was like 2.5, maybe 3 years before I you know, really got back out there. And I'll tell you in one word, it was painful. It was painful.
Pain.
Yeah.
Pain.
Well, I'll say this. I had no idea if I still had it in me or not. I wanted it. But you know, I started having kids, and you know, I got the dad bod going, and you know, I was like, I don't know if I can scrap, you know, like those guys. But when we got back from Iraq, and we had Victory Week going on. I think most units do something where, you know, all the different units, they all play different sporting events or games across the post, kind of boost the morale back up and in the community. And so they had a combatives tournament that included Fort Leavenworth and some other post, I forget. But so we had like a tri-post combatives tournament. And Michael Sprigg, our heavyweight, was out there in the same unit as I was. So we both talked to each other like, hey, we could walk through this combatives tournament and win this thing. And so we kind of agreed to do that. So we started training each other the week leading up to the combatives tournament. And sure enough, you know, we had the combatives tournament. It's a two-day tournament. I cut like 3-4 pounds to make whatever weight class it was. And we had the tournament. I made it to the finals. so did Michael Sprigg. And in the finals, they brought in a cage, and it was full contact. So basically, well, let me back up. In the semifinals, I forget what level it was, but you could open hand slap, but you couldn't punch. And I had taken the guy down, and all my soldiers out there watching. And I took the guy down, and I was mounted up on top of him. And basically, I was just going for a choke. And after I won that, my soldiers came back. They said, "Sir, like, you totally disappointed us." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, you had the chance to slap that guy in his face, and you didn't take it. Like, you totally just eased up on him." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I did. I didn't want to embarrass the guy." So they made me promise that in the finals that I was going to, you know, give it to the guy, you know, like, you know, just bust his nose or something. So here comes the finals, and against this kid and this young soldier. And, you know, I kind of went in there, and I was kind of dancing around, punching a little bit, and he kicked me straight in the chest and knocked me down on my ass. And I just started seeing red. I jumped up and threw him into the cage. He tried to follow up. So I threw him in the cage, and he bounced off, and I started tagging him. And then I went for a jab, and he cut it to the right, and I came hard with my right and connected with his nose and broke his nose, and he went down, and they stopped the fight. But it was that moment that I knew. I was like, man, I still have it. I still have that itch.
When you felt the guy's nose break under the weight of your fist, you knew right then. You were like, Yeah, I don't care about the kid. I don't care about the dad bod. Like,
Yeah, I was like, I gotta go back to wrestling. I gotta, gotta get it. So,
it was at
anyways,
that moment Will knew.
So did they let
that poor soldier.
Was it
I feel
over
bad.
after you broke his
Oh
nose?
yeah, I'm sure you felt terrible. Still do, obviously.
Yeah. Well, he was my ticket back to WCAP, to get into WCAP because my battalion commander, brigade commander, they were there and they just went nuts. And all the soldiers there were just chanting my name. And Bridget was in there. I think she started crying a little bit, so I was like, man, this is it. I got to go, And so I dropped my packet to WCAP and they all approved it. So
You probably got an Archon for that too.
I think it was an AAM. Yeah.
Should have been an Archon.
Should have been an Archon. Yeah, you're right.
So did they stop it completely after you broke his nose when you won?
Yeah, well, I jumped on him, and I started, I was gonna keep hitting him, so that they stopped that. And I mean, he splattered blood everywhere, so they wanted to stop that too.
Is there video of this anywhere?
Yeah. Firo, come on
Listen,
over, man.
Listen, Will has been back at West Point for 5 years. This is the first time I've heard this story. And
I've never heard this story before.
And he's just saying like, yeah, there was like blood splattering and stuff. No, that's not how you tell the story about breaking somebody's nose, blood going everywhere. Like, we got to get into this. We got to dig a little bit deeper on another episode.
Yeah. Well, John Anderson actually called me, and because I think I sent him the video, whatever, and he was like, dude, like, come get out here at WCAP, because he was out there at the time. And so John Anderson, my brother Phil, both kind of tag team to help me get out there. But yeah, but to answer your question, I did go out there to start wrestling freestyle and realize that I was trying to compete with guys coming out of NCAAs, like just came off being an All-American, going into the US Open and the World Team Trials, and I just didn't have the time to train to keep up with them. So I decided to change over to Greco, and didn't have quite as many of the athletes funneling into the tournament. So thought I had better luck there. And it took me 8 months to learn how to do Greco, because it's a little bit backwards. But once I figured it out that in my stance I wasn't going to get blast doubled anymore, then it all clicked.
8 months to figure that out, Willie?
Yeah, I'm a little slow learner.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I get made fun of too much on the show. I need to throw it back sometimes.
No, we're nice to BHAW.
I actually thought we were going to be doing this in your new gym, so I'm a little disappointed.
I'm a little worried about the internet connection out there.
You got a brand new CrossFit gym with no internet? How do you take videos of your power squats and your pull-ups and post them while you're doing it?
Yeah,
I have internet out
stuff on Instagram, BHAW.
I've got the internet. So I have a booster that goes out there, and that's what funnels the TV to get the internet, like streaming to the Apple TV out there. But I just don't know. Basically, I'm making an excuse that I didn't test it out beforehand. I didn't even really think about doing out there. But next episode.
Well, this is Will holding you accountable, like you asked for.
I'm in a different location now, doing it in my home office. Willie over my shoulder.
Or for wusses, BHAW.
I want to see Willie. I want to see Willie doing some box hops, box jumps while we're doing this show next time.
Let me tell you, I mean, you guys are doing a good job staying focused, but I just cannot. Willie sitting there on the chair like this the whole time. I know I'm bringing it up again, but this guy, no, bring it back. BHAW.
Kevin, we need to keep you concentrated on the show. We can't have fully distracted.
I have to look at you. So, man, I mean, Will Simpson has an incredible story, and he's got a lot of fans, and a few of them, when we get here, BHAW, a few of them ask some questions. So we got some hard-hitting questions from the fans tonight for Will. But what else do we want to know before we get to the fan questions?
So I've got a few questions because we didn't get any of your time at West Point, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit. You moved back about 5 years ago. I think you went a different path. Normally, people go to West Point and they're either a TAC or an instructor. You usually have to go back to school for a few years before you go there. Talk about your transition to West Point and how it was maybe a little bit different, and some opportunities you had that maybe other people can look at in the future who maybe want to do a different path than the normal one, getting back to West Point.
Well, the biggest thing is, the people at West Point. I think that's what makes West Point great, right? So I had a lot of fond memories as a cadet, being on the wrestling team. And to me, that was family. A lot of growth happened there. My brothers were there. My cousin, Whit Dunning, dang Whit. What's up, Whit?
Hey, Whit.
So it was part of my family, was at West Point. So, but I was in WCAP, and, it had to be a pretty sweet gig to pull me out of WCAP. Kevin called me up randomly, and just said, "Hey, we want to bring you back to West Point. We have the prep school is now." You remember the prep school where I went to the prep school at BHAW. It was down in New Jersey. We got to pretend like we were Jersey boys there for a little bit. BHAW even tried to get my hair to blow out one time. So Kevin was like, told me, Kevin's like, "Hey, we're at the prep school at West Point, and we need somebody that can coach them. I got a program I'm establishing here at West Point, and we need to build champions, and we need a good coach there." So I had to talk to Bridget, and we had to pray a lot about like what the next phase of our family, needed, and for my career and stuff. And we basically turned Kevin down the first time. I had my heart set on going to the trials, and I could finish my competition, but we ended up taking him up on it. I called him back, and the job was still available. So I said, "Hey, slot us down there. We want to be there. So we want to get back to our roots and give back to the program that gave me so much." So when I got here, I got put to the prep school, and then things changed a lot. I got put in as the TAC officer for Charlie Company, which was BHAW and I's company. The craziest daggone thing is I remember as a prep school cadet candidate sitting in my TAC officer's office, who was Charlie Company TAC officer, and he chewed my butt out for so many different things. Basically said I was never going to amount to anything. And here I am, years later, as the Charlie Company TAC officer, having cadet candidates come into my office where I could tell them how they were messed up. I never said they were messed up. I said, "Hey, look, I did this. So you better straighten up, because, if I could do it, you could do it," kind of talk. And, but it was a cool moment for me, just to kind of like, man, what a time warp that was. And still to this day, that was probably my favorite year, was that first year coaching the prep school team there. That was Bobby Heald, Lane Peters, Ryan Hetrick, and Bennett Paulson, all those guys, Bo Guffey. That was their year. So I got to coach them, and that was my favorite job ever was coaching those guys in wrestling. So after that, though, the West Point moved me to be the HAC company commander, and so I had to go do that and kind of take on coaching as a hobby as opposed to a full-time thing. And but it still allowed me to get into Kevin's room whenever Kevin wasn't looking, and pretend like I was wrestling again.
I would just pretend I didn't see him over there attempting to wrestle again. It was like, because going back to college wrestling, like, you got to get off bottom now, like Lane Peters is putting legs in, and Will's got to try to get up. And I'm like, Will, just stick with Greco.
I couldn't get anybody to stop shooting on my legs. I was like, man. Yeah, so I didn't have to go to any schools or anything like that. Kevin gave me the quite the offer that I couldn't refuse. But for any of those alumni that are questioning whether or not they should come back to West Point, I promise you it is worth its weight in gold, even just to be around the program. Kevin has done crazy, job building the program up and putting it in a place where it can go and do what we all believe it can do, which is being a top tier program in the country. So the fact that in such a short amount of time, Kevin has been able to go from placing 6 at, all academy tournament to, putting 7 people and scratching at the door to producing, multiple All-Americans, is crazy. So, but it's something we all believe that it was possible. It's fun to be a part of that journey and to ride this wave, this Kevin Ward wave, and to, propelling the Army wrestling into, a force that people recognize.
Well, I think Will, is obviously being generous there with the praise, but I mean, yeah, it was like, really cool when we had the opportunity. It was, hey, we can find a captain in the Army and bring them here and they can coach your prep school team. So it was like, well, we know exactly who we want. And Philip said no. So I was like, no. We said, no, we know exactly who we want. Let's go get this guy. And long story short, yeah, it worked out. So it's pretty incredible. So all the listeners, that our senior class, this year, just a really impactful group. Will coached the majority of them at prep school, their first year here at West Point. So made a really big impact on our program. We're really lucky and fortunate the way it all worked out.
Yeah. Well, but, if there's a lot of ways you can come back to West Point, some through like academic side, if you go get your master's, you come back to teach at math or maybe even DPE. Those are great options, and then you can also go to Columbia for a year and get your master's in leadership, come back as a TAC officer. It's another great option. Anybody that, wants to come back and work at ODA, you just got to reach out to me. I'll put your name down on the list and we'll see if we can't get you over here. So I'm always hunting for some Army wrestlers. So anybody listening in, tune in, reach out to me. Maybe B-Row can post my contact info so that, if somebody, their timeline works out, I can potentially get them over here. So, but yeah, it is really, really awesome being a part of the program that shaped me into an officer, a good, I feel like a good officer. At least I learned a lot of toughness and grit. And to be able to give back just feels right. And like I said, it's just fun being a part of a winning program, that it's going out and doing things that we all dreamed about doing.
Cool.
So before we get into listener questions, I have, and one actually is a listener question, I think too, but you've had a crazy last couple of weeks. You went to NCAAs, you went to Olympic trials. You go to Last Chance too?
No, I didn't. I couldn't swing that one.
I was going to say, Bridget, you go 3 weekends in a row. Oh my gosh. Bridget, but that's too much.
Bridget is a saint. My wife Bridget is a saint, and I can't thank her enough for all the sacrifice she's endured so that I can go play coach and get out there and be around the sport I love so much. But she loves the boys too. I mean, all the guys in the team. She's as much invested in them as I am, and she's just the one that's always behind the scenes. So shout out to Bridget, for all the
real MVP.
The real MVP, absolutely, yeah. Kevin. And Kevin knows she's a tougher competitor than I am.
She's a tougher competitor, a much better golfer.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't gonna go there, but yes, you're 100% right. She's my better half for sure.
So what was it? I guess we'll start with Logan Everett's question because that's a good little segue.
Logan Everett, the guy that I put on his back and got some back points.
Oh, you did that?
I don't know if the final score was tied or if he won, but we both walked off the match feeling like, I'm okay with what just happened.
Well, Logan didn't come at you too hard. Logan's got an actual sincere question here. He wants to know, what it meant to you and what it was like to corner John Anderson in his last tournament at the Olympic trials.
Oh man. Well, what a mixture of emotions. I mean, Johnny Smokes was my teammate, me and B-Row's teammate. So we go way, way back. And there's so much respect for John and what he was able to do and where he came from. And to see the guy compete on the world level, the highest level, with tremendous success.
So long.
You know, and for him to go into the Olympic trials kind of as the number 3 guy, he had the chance to do it. He had the chance to be an Olympian, and we both believed it. He's worked his tail off to get there, and I was completely honored to be able to sit in his corner and be a part of that that last phase of the journey for him. And unfortunately, you know, we kind of had our expectations to be celebrating at this point. It didn't happen. It just wasn't in the cards. And I can only look at what John had done with only pride. And there's no disappointment at all, but I know the feelings of disappointment are still there. Something that John does. He's really mentally tough. Everybody that knows John knows that, but I know he's hurting a little bit. But I tell you, you know, him taking his shoes off, and getting the recognition that he deserved, was a special moment for the entire wrestling community. I know there's a few other people out there that took their shoes off in that tournament too, but there's just something really special about John Anderson taking his shoes off, because those other athletes, that was their full-time job. That was their full-time focus. And I'm not making excuses for John, but I just like to highlight the man was an Army officer for 15 years now, competing at the same level with the same success as those other athletes, whose only job was to win. And he's doing it while leading soldiers, protecting our country, and raising a family and kicking tail, you know, on the wrestling mat. So yeah, my heart, you know, beats, you know, pretty loudly for John. I'm really proud for him. I was glad that he got that recognition this past weekend, and
Yeah,
I told him I enjoyed every minute of it.
Such a cool moment, you know, and bittersweet, you know, to see him standing there and saluting in the middle of the mat, and then the way the fans react. Because I think they appreciate, you know, not just him wearing the uniform and serving, but the way he competed. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the reason they call him the Smokes, you know, he competed so hard, and so yeah, I mean, awesome. You know, and us associated with the program was just awesome to see him out there, and another Army wrestler right there in his corner. So really cool. I know we'll have John Anderson on the show again sometime and be able to dig into that a little deeper. Jack Lucy isn't coming at you quite the same way Logan ever did. Jack just wants to know when you're trying to catch these hands. And I don't listen. In all fairness to Jack, I don't think Jack has heard that story about you busting the guy's nose. So
yeah, I don't think Jack's gonna be you know, after he hears this show, he's gonna be speaking a different tune.
He does. Yeah. He does add some military manner to it. He when are you trying to catch these hands again, sir?
Oh, Jack.
Yeah, your response to Jack Lucy.
Well, you know, I told Jack he needs to have some higher goals for himself, you know, and you know he made it on the wrestling team. It's a good job, Jack. I'm proud of you, man. I really am. You know, but you can do more. And you know, I spent a little bit of time with Jack, you know, do some Greco and wrestling a little bit, and you know, I kind of took it easy on him, let him get his confidence up, and you know, but hey, phase 2 of our training, Jack, is when you get yourself back out here and we can scrap.
Okay. Hey, listen,
we'll go a little bit.
We'll take Jack Lucy back in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying that. But hey, I'm going to tell you this is kind of off script, but Jack Lucy was here as our AI, and we go on a trip, and we're wrestling at Drexel.
Pause it real quick. What's exactly on script then for this?
It's just all the prep work that we do beforehand. Listen, we're wrestling at Drexel, and it's an evening duel, like 6 o'clock or whatever. So we go into the wrestling room at like 10 o'clock that morning for a workout. And I say, you're going to come in, you're going to wrestle at least 3-minute hard go, maybe a full match this morning. We'll go back, have lunch, take a nap, come back, do the whole thing over again tonight. And Jack was wrestling with Ben Harvey, who people don't know, but Ben Harvey was not a practice room wrestler. Ben Harvey was his best when the lights were on and the stakes were the highest, but in the practice,
in overtime.
Yeah, in overtime, apparently. In practice, Ben would, people would just like dog him. Ben would get beat up in practice. He wouldn't quit, it's not, but he wasn't concerned with winning every single practice. He would try new things. He would get beat up. So Jack Lucy, as an AI, weighing about 180 pounds here at this time, he would get on the mat maybe once, twice a week. This is the morning of a dual meet, and we're wrestling in Drexel's room, and I look over, and Jack Lucy is wrestling as hard as I've ever seen him wrestle in his entire life. Like the 5 years previous to that, I've never seen this intensity out of Jack Lucy. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching him, and I'm like, is he really going to try to like take Ben to the shed right now? Like Ben's got to wrestle tonight. We have a dual meet, and Jack is just like all over wrestling hard. And I'm like, this son of a gun. And like, he's actually going to try to beat Ben up here. And he did for like 3 minutes, just dogged him, beat him up bad. And after, Jack comes over and he's like, yeah, felt pretty good today. Felt pretty good. I was like, well, I'm glad you felt good, Jack, but you're not the one out there wrestling tonight. I'm like, I'm really glad that you felt good, but that guy's about 2/10 over right now. He's already down to weight, and you're here beating the crap out of him. He's got to go out there and wrestle tonight. So why don't you go make sure that our athletes are feeling good?
Oh my gosh, that's awesome! What a Jack Lucy story.
What a Jack Lucy story. Oh, we've got more for another episode. One where maybe Matthew's not watching.
Yeah.
But is it okay if I sum it up with like, Jack, get these hands anytime?
That's it.
You heard it here, Lucy. I'm going to see if you can guess who wants to ask you this. Is it true that you have a knack for breaking spike ball sets?
Man.
Yeah,
Bobby
if so,
Field.
explain.
It's come from Bobby Hill, isn't it?
Bobby Hill.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's a funny story. That was back when spike ball was kind of big, and when we have a chance to take the prep school guys down to the wrestling room, down to the RTC practices, and they'd be playing spike ball. It was kind of cool, and it was fun. So at the end of the year, Bobby boned up some money and was like, hey, we'll get our own set up at the prep school so we can practice and get better. So when we go down the hill, we're not looking bad. So I thought I was pretty good. Soon as he pulled this new set out and he strung up the net and I started playing, I was like, all right, Bobby, me and you, let's go. And I guess I went for a spike and tripped over my shoelace and just fell right on top of the spike ball thing and broke it in half. It wasn't even 2 minutes out of the box.
Is that why we had that spike ball set with all the duct tape on it?
Yeah, it's probably the, some of the carnage that I left for you. Apologize, Bobby. I think I still owe you the spike ball set to replace it.
Well, we're fortunate we get Bob sticking around next year as an intern for us. So he'll be making that lieutenant BAH next year. So I think he'll be able to afford his own spike ball set.
Yeah, that's true. He can potentially get good at to beat me. So potentially.
Yeah.
He's got to work at it though.
That's the viewer questions I had, the hard-hitting questions that I have for Major Simpson. And we've covered a lot, so I don't have any questions personally, B-Row.
Yeah, just to wrap things up, let's talk about, let's close it just talking about your future. I know you're leaving West Point, you're getting out of the military, you're moving back home. Just so like wrap it up with the listeners, they kind of have an understanding. Yeah.
So my next for me and my family is we're going to get out of active duty. We've held on, we played Army for a good while now, coming up on 13, well, I guess 12 years since I graduated, but 13 when you throw in the prep school year. It's been an awesome ride, in the Army, and I love the organization. I don't want to leave it, but I do need to refocus on the family and what the family's needs are. I hate leaving the Army wrestling family here at West Point. It's going to be super sad to leave. Not looking forward to that. But my family down in Nashville, my mom and dad and Philip and his kids and Patrick and his kids, and trying to get Whit down there too, and then all the rest of them, my sisters. So it's a lot of adventures down there for us and for my kids, and I want to get them involved in wrestling. So hoping that whatever job I end up getting, I have time and can make the time to start a wrestling club, and kind of do that with Philip and Patrick and my dad and the family down there. So it was just a big part of my growing up was being around my grandparents and my cousins and aunts and uncles. So I want to provide that for my kids, and also, with number 8 on the way, I got to provide a little bit more stability for Bridget, and so it's something she's been looking forward to for some time.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you coming on the show, Will. Any questions for us, before we hop off? Do you want to know anything about us?
No. I like I said, I think next episode, I'd like to see it in the BHAW, CrossFit gym down there. B-Row. So
yeah, the viewers haven't seen the gym, so maybe I'll do it down there, and I'll give a little.
I do got to give you props. I think you actually have a knack for creating a nice CrossFit gym. It looks very good. I'll give you that.
It looks very good.
Now, if you would actually start using it, then
yeah, I guess it's about time to start working out then, I think. But it's really new. Like, so for the listeners out there, I have a BHAW Radio wrestling mat, custom, BHAW Radio logo on it, with all the bells and whistles of a CrossFit gym. But I'll have to do it next time in there. But,
well, I will ask, I think, getting another brother and brother teammate episode, and I'm going to call out Pat and Brent Smith, and I think they should be on your agenda for as a special guest.
Ooh, I think we can make that happen. That was going to be my closing question was going to be, who do you want to hear on here next?
Yeah, I kind of jumped the gun on it. Sorry about that, B-Row.
I think he's trying to tell you something there. When he starts, when he comes out with the closing question before you're able to ask, I don't know. I'm just saying he might be sick of talking to you, B-Row. No, man. Hey, I want to just say I appreciate Will coming on the show. Thanks for letting me be a co-host tonight, B-Row. I like being on this side of the questions. Man, a legendary Army wrestling career. So I hope the fans enjoy hearing a little bit of your story, and maybe have you on again and tell us a little bit more sometime.
No, I love it. I totally dig the BHAW Radio, and I appreciate you getting on every night and taking K-Dub's jabs at you.
Yeah, when
it's fun for me to watch.
When Kevin mentioned to Matthew that what's your favorite episode? An episode that B-Row wasn't on. Can you remember an episode that I wasn't on?
Actually, there was, yeah.
Was there?
Yep.
Wait, which one?
It's the one with all the views on YouTube. Look it up.
I've been on every episode.
Have you? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you just fell off or something. Maybe you just tuned
Maybe he was just overshadowed by.
I'm gonna go through.
Well, no,
and see if
there's a couple of them where your video it doesn't show up, and so it's like the BHAW Radio logo, and so you don't actually see your face. So
yeah, but you hear me talking. This is a classic Willie argument right here. It doesn't make any sense. Similar to my arguments most of the time too.
Yeah, and we better shut it down, or otherwise this thing's going to go on for another 2 hours. We let you guys finish this argument.
And for the listeners who don't know, Willie was kind of clearing his throat several times because he lost his voice this weekend, coaching John.
Yeah, I do apologize about that. I spent most of my time yelling at the refs. I'll just say that, keep it short. I
can relate.
I was like being NCAAs.
I did take a couple of good notes from K-Dub's notebook on how to address referees.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap this up. Willie, it was great to have you on the show.
No, this is awesome. Thanks, B-Row. I've only been waiting for 38 episodes, but I'm glad we finally got me on here. So
better late than never. Now is when we're going to start bringing in the more fans. We'll have several dozens of fans now.
Yeah.
Just a few dozen.
No, this is good. I appreciate it. I love the show, and whatever you guys need, I'm here for you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right, BHAW.
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 Thanks for tuning in to the BHAW Radio Show. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform. If there's something you'd like to hear on a future show, reach out to us on any of our social media, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Or you can reach us at email, bhaw.radio@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and as always, go Army, be Navy.